intelligence agency says Russia poses a growing threat to the UK and accuses Moscow of pushing its foreign policy in increasingly aggressive ways. With more details in London, here's Anastasia Churkina.
This time we're seeing spies accusing Russia of spying. Specifically, the head of the MI5 in this interview to The Guardian has been talking about Russia posing increasing threats to the UK stability, aggressively pushing its foreign policy through a handful of means such as propaganda, subversion, espionage and cyber attacks.
Moscow has dismissed British claims that Russia is acting in increasingly aggressive ways and using new technologies against the West. The Kremlin spokesman said Moscow is unable to take such baseless allegations into account as long as there is no evidence. Dmitry Peskov added that Russia is using methods in line with international law to promote and defend its interests abroad. Peskov made the comments after the head of Britain's spy agency, MI5, claimed that Russia was using all state organizations and powers to push its foreign policy abroad. Andrew Parker alleged that Russia's increasingly aggressive ways were a threat to the UK. Meanwhile, the British Chancellor has announced that his country will retaliate if it comes under a cyber attack.
In cyberspace, those who want to harm us appear to think they can act scalably and deniably. It is our duty to demonstrate that they cannot act with impunity. So we will not only defend ourselves in cyberspace, we will strike back in kind when we are attacked.
Philip Hammond went on to say that hostile foreign actors are developing techniques that threaten the country's electrical grid and airports. Speaking at a technology conference, Hammond said his country plans to boost its cyber security defenses, adding that the move was part of a $2.3 billion cyber security plan previously introduced.
Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu says a Russian aircraft carrier group headed by an aircraft carrier and a battle cruiser has reached the Mediterranean. Shoigu criticized NATO for applying pressure on countries to deny port access to the Russian warships. But he added they have all the necessary supplies to continue sailing. The minister said Western countries need to decide who they are actually fighting, terrorists or Russia.
North Korea may be preparing to launch another ballistic missile soon. A South Korean government source said on Wednesday that movement pointing to an intermediate-range Musudan missile being loaded to a mobile launcher has been detected. The source also said the missile is expected to be launched from the Pangnyeon airport in the northwestern city of Gusong, the same area from which Pyongyang launched its last missile deemed unsuccessful in October. The North, however, is yet to declare a no-sail zone off its east coast. A no-sail zone declaration is generally expected by Pyongyang prior a missile launch. Seoul's Unification Ministry, however, declined to reveal specifics.
It's classified information, so I cannot reveal any specifics. The government is monitoring all possible means of provocation as of now. We are fully alert.
Hints of North Korea's missile launches also came out from Washington. Citing two U.S. officials with knowledge of the issue, Fox Business Network reported Tuesday local time that the regime is preparing to launch an intermediate-range Musudan missile in the next 24 hours to 72 hours. The officials did not specify what satellite imagery might indicate a launch was imminent, and the U.S. Department of Defense has declined to confirm the report. If a launch goes ahead, it would mark the regime's 9th Musudan missile launch this year. So far, the North's only intermediate-range ballistic missile launch success came in June. The Musudan missile, with a range of some 3,500 kilometers, is a growing threat as it would put the U.S. base on the Pacific island of Guam within striking distance if it becomes operational.
All right, also breaking overnight, a 4.5 magnitude earthquake centered in Pawnee, Oklahoma, felt here in Kansas City.
Yeah, Richard Sharp is at the live desk with what we're learning. Richard.
Yeah, first let's go to the U.S. Geological Survey reports of the quake striking just before 11:30. This is the map of where they've been felt all throughout the night. There were a series of smaller quakes from just after 7 to just before 8. We spoke with our sister station in Tulsa, which is about an hour east of Pawnee. Right here, there are no reports of serious damage. Also, I want to show you this. On our Facebook page, Michelle Barnes posted that here in Kansas City, just felt my bed shaking again a little before midnight. So she's felt it as well. The latest big earthquake to hit near Pawnee was 5.8 in size, and that was the biggest. That was September 3rd, before the ones overnight. It's the biggest in Oklahoma history and was felt in at least 7 states. Nicole is here to give us a closer look on exactly where the quake was. Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. So the quake in Oklahoma, and as you mentioned, there were several in the overnight area, or actually last night into this morning. So let's go ahead and take a look, though. Pawnee, Oklahoma, for those of you who are familiar with the Oklahoma City area or even central Oklahoma, this is just north of Stillwater, which is home to Oklahoma State University. But once again, 4.5 magnitude, happened at 11:26. And just to put this in perspective here, this is about 200 miles towards our southwest. So that's just an indication of how strong earthquakes can be, guys.
Tremors around the Salton Sea have a lot of seismologists wondering if an earthquake is about to strike here.
And CBS 2's Crystal Cruz is live at UC Riverside with what one expert is saying. Crystal.
Hi, Pat and Paul. Yeah, these experts here, they spend up to 12 hours a day going over the models, going over the data, all trying to figure out what is going on.
Okay, the swarm, it's happening near the San Andreas Fault.
UC Riverside's Dr. Christos Kriakopoulos is interested in what's happening east of Los Angeles near the Salton Sea. A cluster of 20 small quakes hit this morning, the largest a magnitude 3.5.
We don't know if that will trigger a bigger event, but we cannot exclude.
In September, a couple hundred quakes hit around the same area past the Coachella Valley. But Kriakopoulos isn't alarmed by this morning's shakeup.
Swarm activity, it's very common.
These swarms are energy being released around the faults. Kriakopoulos is also interested in what's happening in countries like Italy, where earthquakes have devastated areas and lives.
We can apply this knowledge to understand better the seismic cycle in California.
Important to note, experts cannot predict when an earthquake is going to happen. They say we all just better be prepared.
A man rammed an excavator into the South Korean Supreme Prosecutor's office in Seoul on Tuesday morning. The man, who police said had the surname Chung and had driven from a rural area, said he was angry with a woman at the center of a political influence scandal who was being questioned by prosecutors. The woman, Chae Sun-shil, a longtime friend of President Park Geun-hye, has said she helped Ms. Park with speeches, but denies allegations in the South Korean media that she has influence over government policies.
Prosecutors have issued an arrest warrant for Chae Sun-shil, the woman at the center of the scandal that rattled the nation, on 2 charges being a party to a crime of abuse of authority and attempted fraud. Chae is suspected of having used her ties to the president to interfere in state affairs and access classified presidential office documents. She also allegedly used her connections to solicit and embezzle a massive amount of corporate donations for 2 government-linked foundations. She has reportedly denied all the allegations against her and claims she never exploited her relationship with President Park. The latest development came Wednesday morning when state prosecutors reported they have found evidence that Chae received around $3 million from Samsung Group last year through VDEC Sports, a company she established in Germany. Prosecutors say Chae used the money to buy a horse for her daughter, Jung Yura, who is a dressage rider. Prosecutors say they will soon call in Samsung officials as well for questioning over the matter. They have also found evidence showing Chae may have forced other Korean conglomerates to donate funds to the 2 foundations. Also on Wednesday, prosecutors questioned An Jong-bum, the former presidential secretary for policy coordination, who they believed is tied to the 2 sports foundations.
I feel remorseful. I will take responsibility for whatever I've done wrong. I will tell the prosecutors everything.
Chae has denied any link to An, and An had previously denied all the charges against him, saying that he didn't know Chae. But with the scandal escalating by the day, there have been numerous reports saying that he was deeply involved in the fundraising process for the 2 foundations. The investigation is likely to focus on how the 2 foundations in question were set up and whether An used his position as a presidential secretary to help Trish secure large corporate contributions for the foundations.
A catastrophic situation in Yemen if the warring sides do not reach a peace agreement at the earliest. UN humanitarian chief Stephen O'Brien says more than 21 million Yemenis are in need of protection and humanitarian aid. He says over 2 million people, including 370,000 children, are suffering from malnutrition. Meanwhile, United Nations envoy to Yemen Ismail Ould Sheikh Ahmed has said that the people of Yemen are being held hostage to, quote, personal and reckless political decisions.
We all need to ask how long will Yemenis remain hostage to personal and reckless political decisions? What are the parties waiting for to sign a political agreement? Have they not understood that there are no winners in wars?
Well, the UN envoy said the political elite in the war-ravaged country had failed to prioritize public interests over personal interests. The developments came after Yemen's former president Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi rejected the peace proposal by the UN special envoy. Yemen's Ansarullah movement, however, said the initiative could be a basis for a discussion despite some fundamental flaws. 3 months of negotiations in Kuwait aimed at ending Saudi Arabia's deadly onslaught on its southern neighbor ended without a breakthrough in August.
Spinach isn't just a superfood, it can also be a super detector. Researchers have engineered spinach that can detect when an explosive is nearby and even alert someone by email, all thanks to carbon nanotubes.
And finally tonight, a big surprise for a little Halloween hero whose superpowers include the fearlessness to be yourself no matter what. Tonight in West Hollywood, 9-year-old CJ, as his mom calls him, is getting in costume for Halloween. His inspiration? I don't like to show up. Bob the Drag Queen.
America's next drag superstar.
The winner of this year's RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh my God!
Bob's funny and smart and strong and sassy, and so my son likes all of those things, but more than that, he's a boy who likes to wear a dress and look fabulous.
Here's CJ's uncle helping him get into the holiday spirit and into drag, even making sure he has the purse from Bob's song, Purse First.
Purse first, second verse, it's only gonna get worse.
Pictures of the two preparing the ensemble went viral when his mom, Lori, shared them on her blog, Raising My Rainbow.
You don't expect to have a child who's differently gendered. We just had to focus on loving our child no matter what.
But tonight, CJ is in for a surprise from Bob the Drag Queen himself.
I'm very excited to meet CJ. This is going to be very fun. I don't know, I've never met a kid who dressed as me for Halloween before. Hi, how are you? It's me, Bob. Oh.
The two exchanging gifts.
Very own Purse First shirt.
And trick-or-treating.
Hi, trick-or-treat. Hey, trick-or-treat. We're here for candy.
Strutting down the street, of course, Purse First.
Philip Hammond went on to say that hostile foreign actors are developing techniques that threaten the country's electrical grid and airports. Speaking at a technology conference, Hammond said his country plans to boost its cyber security defenses, adding that the move was part of a $2.3 billion cyber security plan previously introduced.
Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu says a Russian aircraft carrier group headed by an aircraft carrier and a
Britain's domestic intelligence agency says Russia poses a growing threat to the UK and accuses Moscow of pushing its foreign policy in increasingly aggressive ways. With more details in London, here's Anastasia Churkina.
This time we're seeing spies accusing Russia of spying. Specifically, the head of the MI5 in this interview to The Guardian has been talking about Russia posing increasing threats to the UK stability, aggressively pushing its foreign policy through a handful of means such as propaganda, subversion, espionage, and cyber attacks.
Moscow has dismissed British claims that Russia is acting in increasingly aggressive ways and using new technologies against the West. The Kremlin spokesman said Moscow is unable to take such baseless allegations into account as long as there is no evidence. Dmitry Peskov added that Russia is using methods in line with international law to promote and defend its interests abroad. Peskov made the comments after the head of Britain's spy agency, MI5, claimed that Russia was using all state organizations and powers to push its foreign policy abroad. Andrew Parker alleged that Russia's increasingly aggressive ways were a threat to the UK. Meanwhile, the British Chancellor has announced that his country will retaliate if it comes under a cyber attack.
In cyberspace, those who want to harm us appear to think they can act scalably and deniably. It is our duty to demonstrate that they cannot act with impunity. So we will not only defend ourselves in cyberspace, we will strike back in kind when we are attacked.